On the Rechecking, Women's Prison Podcast, where we are live on the Rechecking every Wednesday night. Hey, everybody. We are on the Rechecking, Women's Prison Podcast. I'm Marci Marie.
I'm Toonchi.
Toonchi, we have a great show tonight.
We do. It'll be interesting.
We are talking about resilience and basically how our community survived in the oppressive environment of the Texas prison system.
Oh boy, I feel like this is pretty relevant today, Marci.
I think so too, and I think that you and I both needed a little reminder of things that we have survived personally. And I think that this show's going to be a good one. And I'm seeing y'all come in. Welcome to the Rechecking. Glad y'all made it out to Rec, and glad you're here. I see Crystal watching from YouTube. Welcome to the show. I see Lady Amnesty. Welcome to the show. Audrey Lee, thank you for noticing my hair. And I'll tell you, I have hair extensions in. And they're from TikTok.
Now,
I have TikTok hair in. That's why it looks so full. But thank you. I am feeling myself.
Now, wait a minute. Did Audrey Lee know ahead of time that you had?
No, how would you know? I haven't publicly said it.
I don't know if you set that up.
I didn't set it up, and it looks cute. And I'll tell you what else. My 25-year-old daughter, who is a bit bougie, and an esthetician. She cares a lot. She knows a lot about this. She works in an environment with a lot of girls her age that do up each other and look cute all the time. And she said, "Hey, that really blends in with your hair. I like it. I like it too. So, hey, it's all good."
I wouldn't have known had you not told me. Really?
My grandmother still has not noticed, and I've been waving these locks around the house for a couple hours now, waiting for her to say something, swinging it. And Brittany didn't even notice, but I'll tell you what surprises me about Brittany is it's long. It's added some length to this hair. It's like 4 inches longer. So, but to be fair, it was like she's coming in from work, baby's attacking her. So it's okay that she didn't notice. But also, I'm doing this for my ladies inside, who there was a lot of folks in there that I remember hearing like, "I can't wait to get my hair. I can't wait to get my lashes done. I can't wait till my nails are on point." And these are the kind of things that we think about inside, where none of that is available to us, and none of the things that maybe we like to do to feel more confident about ourselves are made available. And so I'm doing it now. I'm doing it now.
Well, it looks good. I didn't know until you told me. So well done.
Well, thank you. So y'all are going to be seeing my videos with some longer hair. Y'all are going to think they're old because I had longer hair when I first got out. So I don't know. We'll see what my hair lady says. Anyway, enough about my hair. Tonight we are talking about resilience. Thank y'all so much for coming in, and thank you for not leaving while I was worried about this hair. Thank you for subscribing to our YouTube channel. That's going to be where we're eventually going to channel into. So we would appreciate if you are wherever you're watching from. We're glad you're here. But we eventually want to funnel everybody to On the Rechecking. We maybe have some things coming up, right? We maybe, who knows, maybe sponsors. We're about to maybe revamp our intro. We're renting out some space very soon. And we're going to do some cute things. And we're stepping it up a notch in the podcast world. Yeah.
Yeah, we are. So you gotta get in where you fit in, or you're going to be left out, folks. So subscribe to the YouTube channel, okay? Because eventually, like Marci said, that it's going to be streaming only to the On the Rechecking YouTube and our audio podcast stuff. So I know some of you watch it on Marci's platform, some of you watch it on mine, but we all need to to flow in one direction. And it just helps the algorithm and the way that the messages spread. So there's a rhyme and a reason for it.
On the Rechecard is on Facebook also. And if you are following On the Rechecard on Facebook, you're going to see little gems of Toonchi and I making complete fools of ourselves. And so you don't want to miss out on that. But we had a really special person like our On the Rechecard Facebook page. I was really surprised. About an hour ago, I saw a notification pop up, and Toonchi, you finally liked our Facebook page.
I was like, is it Piper Kerman? Was it Rosie? And it was me.
It was
me. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I was looking through something and I saw I don't understand. I've never liked our On the Rechecard Facebook page. And so I did it and I was like, I bet you that I hear some shit about this.
Yes, of course you did. And there's a Facebook post about it too. So you'll have to
God
check
bless.
But no, yeah. So we appreciate y'all for following us there also. So tonight we're talking about resilience, the unique ways that we, our community in prison, learned how to resist, sometimes silently, sometimes unnoticed, sometimes more aggressively, but to resist that oppression that we felt from inside. So I think it's going to be really engaging, and I can't wait to hear your all comments and ways that maybe you experienced or your loved ones inside have told you about the folks in there being resilient and resisting some of that oppression. Before we do that, Toonch, you know we got to do this.
Let's do a weekly recap.
Toonch, now we had one of our very, very good friends, your BF Diane DT,
Yeah.
for those of you that were locked up with her. She was in from Germany.
She was, and
she's still here.
Yes, she is. She'll be going home pretty soon. But yeah, she came down to Austin with her cousin Sonia, who is just precious. And I put them on the bus because the train was going to leave at a weird hour in the afternoon. Thought it would be pretty simple. Y'all, they stayed on that bus almost 9 hours. It broke down. They had to change a tire. They barely made it to the Capitol. We were having a Dia de Mortis event honoring Francis Ford. Lioness was honoring Francis. And then Texas After Violence Project was honoring Seth, who also passed away in a Texas prison. But they barely made it, but they made it. And we had a good time. We hung out here. Then I went to DFW. I went to Fort Worth, and we worked on newsletters. Chris did some filming for the documentary, and it was really good to spend time with her. That is my BF, Diane.
I loved that you got to spend time with her, and I'm sad that I won't get to see her before she goes back to Germany. And so that's fun. I'm glad because y'all were very good friends inside, and that's always good to reconnect with. I mean, we stay connected with her, right? But to reconnect and actually hug your friends from the inside is huge. Diane's living it up in Germany with her husband, who she met while she was locked up.
Yeah. And I cried when I left. I did. I was kind of unexpected when I said goodbye and hugged her. You know, Marci, I don't know about you, but I still struggle. Even when I tell you and Britt goodbye, or I tell Mandy goodbye, and I know I'm going to see y'all within the next couple of weeks, I feel like I am in visitation. And I am telling my family goodbye, and I don't know, it causes a panic. I feel like a little kid again. I feel like I'm 15 again. And so it was really hard to hug and say goodbye and I'll see you later, you know. I struggle with that a lot.
Yeah, I think that's something that happens for sure. I think you know, that's part of us healing from our trauma and all of that. I want us all to be together I want my parents to be in the room with me all the time, my brother, you know, I mean, all of that. Yeah, for sure. And yeah, I feel you. I did have a good weekend.
Mm-hmm.
I had my grandbabies on Sunday. And so I took my nephews and grandbabies. We went to the arcade. We went to the movie theater. And then they said, could we go to the trampoline park? Which they have passes to that. So I said, yeah, let's do it. Whatever y'all want. So we had a lot of fun, and just spending time with them and watching them be silly and crazy. I feel like more happened, but I can't remember what, because that was really the highlight. Um, so my mama Sean's watching from YouTube. Hi, mama. She's, of course, hugs Toonchi. Hugs Toonchi.
I love that. Thank you.
And I see AIC's advocate. Thank you. Also watching from YouTube. We appreciate you. Well, let's get on. Let's get on to the meat of the show.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, resilience and resistance. Let's talk about resistance. The ways that we y'all have heard how bad it is in Texas women's prisons. That's a main topic of our conversation, right? So you know some of the things that we endured, and also just to be in a place where you know that there are policies and even laws in place that are not being adhered to,
Mm-hmm.
and you are at zero power or zero control to do much, you know, but that maybe you have a little bit of control in there. So what are some of the ways that you remember resisting?
Oh man. You know, here you are in a position where you don't have any power, right? Like the only power you have is over yourself, which you know you can say is true to life, but you really are second class citizen, if you would even call yourself that while you're incarcerated, right? So when the law says something, when the policy says something, you have no autonomy, right? Like you have no way to say, I disagree with that. Like, oh, I'm not going to do that, right? Like there's punishment. And it is a culture of oppression. You know, TDCJ, Texas Department of Criminal Justice, can paint it up, which we certainly see them doing that on their social media all the time. Boy, all of a sudden there's this big push to show this, right? Especially for women, right?
I'm on mute. How did I have to say that I feel like that is absolutely a direct reaction to advocacy work done in our state by system impacted women, including the two of us, but on a much larger scale. There are lots of us out there that have come together and are really fighting for our population inside. Mm-hmm. And now all of a sudden, there's these happy social media videos about women in prison doing great things, women being here, women units doing this, women units doing that. And we almost went from invisible
to being tokenized, right? I mean, because that's what it is, right? Like, so now there's this big showing of, and let's be clear, this is predominantly women at the O'Daniel unit, the Mountain View unit, or Coleman, right? Where we all know that have done time that the conditions of confinement are different, right? And so it's this, oh, everything's great. Like it's propaganda. That's what it is. Straight up propaganda, because that's not what we hear from our members at Lioness all the time. It's propaganda. But so you know, still not even having the autonomy to understand that you're being used for propaganda. So how do you resist this? How do you resist your oppression? How do you, in a place where anything that looks like you are you're bucking the system is going to be immediate punishment? And I think women have been unfortunately, through society, Marci, and especially in prison, we learn to do those things in very covert ways, right? Like that's how we deal with things, because we know as women and gender expansive people that when we overtly resist the way that men do, we suffer very, very different consequences. So how do we do that covertly? I'm just going to tell you some of the things I did, which it empowered me, and whether it mattered or not, it didn't matter, because it's about me and it empowering me. I used to dump out chemicals in the education building. I would waste supplies. I would throw shit away. I would wash their personal dishes in the toilet, right? Like I called them secret sabotage, right? Because these were the ways that I could resist the things that were happening to me that I felt like gave me a sense of power and control in the very oppressed way that I was living.
And the nerve of correction staff to have you washing their personal dishes anyway.
Well, if any of the education staff are watching this right now, if you treated me well, your dishes didn't go in the toilet. They went in the sink where the mop water went. But those law library ladies and that other lady that treated me like garbage and a couple of other officers, honey, I need to tell you right now, those dishes that you told me, hey, you offender, you wash this. Oh, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I washed them in the toilet. Let's be clear. You were eating out of a dish that I washed where I took a shit.
Oh,
right?
geez.
So I'm sorry. I get really amped up, Marci, because it's like the ways that they degraded us and all the times that we had to smile about it, there were those ways that we resisted to give ourselves a sense of power and control over our lives and our situation that they had no clue about.
I was thinking, what came to my mind when we were talking about the topic of this show, like resilience and resistance under oppression, I was thinking about the ways that we made ourselves comfortable. I mean, we were living a life there, and how many rules had to be broken in order for us to have community and have, I mean, I'm just thinking about cooking for our friends. Like that was one way I remember feeling, even just taking a meal across the unit to my wife, to Brittany, when we weren't supposed to, that felt like something, like a way for us to show community and love for one another.
Yeah.
And it felt like a FU to the system. And then the other thing I was just thinking about is contraband. Lori Colliard said, Toonchi is like, how about a chocolate pie? And that is, yeah. Hey, I wish we had some ODR cooks on here. The officer dining room, they get a separate food, and not necessarily that the cook would cook something and like sabotage their whole food for, first of all, say policy says they get the same food, but we all know that's not what happens, because we
Right.
see
Yep.
the ODR cook cooking a whole separate meal,
Right.
much better quality food with herbs from the herb garden and fresh ingredients. Like we see it with our own eyes, so we know that's not true. But the people, there's incarcerated staff that work that officer dining room, and some of those officers that come in there still talk to that person who is serving their food
Like shit.
crazy.
Yeah.
It's the same mentality of people that like go to the restaurants and cuss the waitress out before she brings you your food. You're bold. You're bold to be mean to somebody handling something that you're fixing to eat. But I wish we had, if there are any ODR stories, I'm here for it, because I know there are some. So,
well, I mean, it's because they really thought I imagine all the people that worked with me, as I was the supportive inmate staff, right? Like the SSI. If you treated me well, I treated you well. But if you treat me in a way that felt like I am being treated less than human, and you were demoralizing me and you were degrading me, I am going to find a way to balance that for myself. And if that means that I wash your dishes in the toilet, that's what it is. If that means that I hide your stuff or I throw it away or I, dry snitch you out, which, by the way, dry snitching is when you, tell on somebody with like where it looks like you're innocently just talking. That's what dry snitching is. Like, oh, well, the sergeant was in here earlier and they were asking where you were. And, I told them I didn't know. It's a way to tell without looking like you purposely did it. That's what dry snitching is. So if it was that, I was always looking for a way to somehow, Marci, cause the system problems, to throw a monkey wrench in the gears that was the system. And as women, we didn't have a whole lot of options to do that without repercussions. I know I did a TikTok a long time ago talking about the way that one time at Mountain View, as a form of resistance, that they were making us do compliance in a way that was absolutely unreasonable. Everything had to go in your box. Everything, school, all of it. There was nothing on your table. There was no hygiene items out. It was a very small box, y'all, that was half the size of your locker in high school. And so what happened was that, we don't want to get in trouble, right? Like, because if we get in trouble, you're not going to be able to use the phone or see your kids, or if you get a major case. So what are the ways that we can resist that are actually legal? Well, everybody turned out on pork noodle casserole day, which typically the chow hall would only make us so much amount because they know people don't turn out for that. Now all of a sudden the whole unit's here. And then on fried chicken day, well, usually that's the whole unit. Well, the whole unit wouldn't go out. So now we've wasted all this food. Oh my God, the whole unit just turned out for rec. And so we put a strain on the system in the ways that we're not doing anything wrong. And then eventually they figured out why that was happening. Oh, well, then we're going to change the compliance rules. So those are the ways that women figure out how to resist without actually, and I think it's smart. It's a really covert way to keep yourself safe and actually have an impact.
It's using the policies that are already in place to your advantage. That, yeah, for sure. We did that. We did the everybody turn out for chow. And what we did is every meal, everybody turned out. And thanks for letting me chime in to this conversation. As BF Diane, who's watching from Facebook, is noting, I had a hard time getting on in there, but I appreciate you for allowing me to comment. But
yeah,
no,
sure.
Yeah, I am. It was a everybody turn out for every meal. And the fact of the matter is, Texas prisons cell commissary, they rely on people not turning out to chow for their food budget, for their budget. But they are required to feed everybody on the unit the same thing, and to feed everybody that turns out for chow. Right. So what we were doing is everybody's going to every meal and they're having to like stop serving chow and having to recook in the middle. Then now where it takes 2 hours to serve 1,200 people, now chow's going on for 4 or 5 hours because everybody's turning out, and then the kitchen's having to shut down and they're having to do like count times in the middle of chow. And it was a disaster. It was a disaster. So for sure, that was a good way for us to protest without it being inciting a riot. Because if we had got together, like the way that we resist out here is gathering and maybe vocalizing, maybe we have signs, maybe we're all gathered at the Capitol. We all get together and say, we're going to talk about this bill. We're going to go knock on doors and you're going to say this and you're going to talk about this and I'm going to talk about that. And we strategize. In prison, that's called inciting a riot.
Yeah.
So, you can't do that. Now, you helped people with grievances.
I did. And that was another tactic, right, of resistance, was that I created a space in that library for 10 years that everybody knew. You come to this library, I'm going to pass you this newspaper article, right? Because newspapers became insanely expensive. So the only access to newspapers was at the unit library. So I can smuggle that information out, and then people would bring their stuff about their grievances. And I was able to help them right there. Now, that wasn't allowed, but like, you find these ways to be able to support each other, in ways that you're not going to get punished for overtly.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
I want to tell you something else, and I want to let you talk, but this is a good story. Now, it was another example.
Okay. Let's hear it.
And if I've told it before, I'm sorry, y'all. I'm perimenopausal, so a lot of my memory is shot. Now, and if the education staff, again, because I feel like you and I both know TDCJ and officials watch this channel. So
Hey, we catch them all the time.
we do. So buckle in, education staff, that while one or two of you that I do have a fondness for, y'all were still wrong. So they created this, on the door of their office, this big butcher paper that said "Wall of Shame." Okay. And maybe I told this story before, but they would catch notes or little contraband stuff and they would tape them to this door, right? So when they would do bathroom breaks, everybody could see this door that said "Wall of Shame." Your kites, your notes, just to embarrass people, right? Because it was funny to them.
Well, so imagine right now, everybody that's listening, whether you're watching live or you're listening in your car on your way to work, on Spotify or wherever, think about how you talk to your closest friends and what kind of things you share with whomever that closest friend might be. And also think about things that you say to your spouse or your partner, your lover.
Yeah.
Think about those things that maybe when y'all were courting each other, things that you said to one another. Those are the type of things that we write to our friends inside. And if it might be stuff that's happening in the free world with your family.
Right.
It might be your mental health purge, you needing to get things out.
Mm-hmm.
And it might be very personal, sexy talk to your honey.
Right.
These are the type of notes she's talking about.
Yeah, and they've taped them on the cage door, right? We called it the cage, their office. And so, the people that they would bust, when they pat searched or whatever or found them, they would harass them when they would come to the bathroom. They would, make fun of them, and it was bothering me. And then I remember one of the girls that they were messing with. It was, of course, a butch broad, right? Someone that looked like me and Britt, and they were just railing and railing. And I'm like, God damn. So in passing, I hear her say, like, dude, like, it embarrasses the fuck out. Like, it embarrasses me so bad. Like, I want to hurt myself. Like, it embarrasses me so, I feel so ashamed. And that was the last thing, Marci. It was the last thing. So I go back to the dorm, and it's like, I can't report it because I work in the library. I work in the education building. If I report it, they're going to put me out, put me on the hose squad or in the laundry. Mm-hmm. And that library was my peace. That library was kind of an epicenter of sabotage and education. And it was kind of this place where we could do our dealings that were, reporting things or whatever. And I was like, I can't lose my job. I said, okay, what are the ways and what are the things that could get them to tear this down? And so I knew if it was wrapped around the Prison Rape Elimination Act or it was wrapped around unaliving yourself and things about mental health, those are two things that the state is very sensitive about in terms of it being reported. Okay. So I go back to the dorm and I tell my very, very good friend, who I won't say her name here, what was happening. I said, I need you to write this I-60. And I-60 is a form to an official. It's a little piece of paper and it says, who do you want to send it to? And you write your whatever it is. And I said, it can't be in my handwriting. And she was like, okay. So we wrote it to the psychiatrist. We wrote it to the PREA officer, and essentially just kind of talking like if, what it was and how concerning it was, and it could cause me to harm myself, and we wrote anonymous. So we dropped it off, and probably about a day later, the warden Sellers, which we all know I've talked about, who I cannot stand, she of all people came in and said, hey, y'all, what's going on? And she was like, what is this? And they're like, oh, this is funny. They thought it was so fucking hilarious, Marci. And she goes, yeah, I hear you, but y'all have to take that down. PREA, has already called me. This has to come down, and y'all have to throw this away. And they were mad as fuck. They were so mad. And I'm sitting here thinking, y'all have no idea that was me that turned your ass in. And I hope every single one of you can hear this if you're watching, because I know they creep on us. And, and the weird thing is, Marci, those very ladies that worked with me, that were officers in that building, were good to me, but they were bad to other people. You know what I mean? And that I could not tolerate.
Yeah, there was, I think that there's a lot of folks in there that were in that position where they had maybe been there a little bit longer, or maybe they did special work for the lieutenant. And I don't mean like dirty stuff. I mean like, hey, get up in the middle of the night and clean the showers because we're having an inspection tomorrow. That kind of very laborious work. Or, floor crew where they're get a lot of one-on-one time with the staff member where they're like hours long work, or that they might get treated just a little bit better, but then they're still watching everything and, still very aware that what's happening is not okay, but they are in a unique position. One of the ways that, so I was not in those kind of positions very often because I was very vocal with my resistance. I got thrown in seg more often than not. Oftentimes, I should say, I got thrown in seg for speaking about what was happening to someone else, just watching it blatantly, because it takes a special kind of restraint to watch that and be able to think clearly about how to handle it without speaking. I'm too vocal. And anyway, one of the ways that we did that when we were in unique positions, which was very rare for me, but other people especially, was stealing disciplinary cases.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And that would really, I have stolen quite a few, but I was not in a unique position where I worked in the lieutenant's office. But all y'all's workers, all of them are stealing those cases, all of them. And we were not discriminating on whose case it was.
Right. If you saw a case written and you could have access to it, your duty was to tear it up and flush it and pretend like nothing happened. It didn't matter what it was about or who it was.
We were at respit one summer. We were at respit at line control, which is where the sergeant's office is. And it's where the holding cell when you first get on the unit is. And it's also where the main picket for the unit is. It's where the picket that monitors the street traffic. Okay. So we're in there. They have us, there's 5 of us sitting in the hallway, spaced out about, arm's length, where we couldn't touch each other. We're just lined up sitting on the floor because that's how they do respite for women. I know guys A lot of y'all had chairs and were real comfy. We were sitting on the floor, and sometimes sitting on the floor and facing the wall to have respite. Respite meaning when it's 105 degrees outside and 15 degrees in your cell, you can ask for respite, and you're supposed to be able to sit in the air conditioning to get reprieve. That's what I'm talking about. I know you Mountain View girls don't know much about that respite life. So anyways, we're there, and then they've got like 3 people in the holding cell. 3 people that newer to prison. They don't know what's going on. You know, they're whatever. Well, here's a pile of disciplinary cases, and it was the full case. Like, it was the stapled packet. So they had already been printed off, ready to go. Like, this was right before you go to court type stuff. And Lieutenant was in her office, and we're sitting there. The people are in the picket. The disciplinary cases are where the picket can eyeball them, but they'd have to just be watching. Well, I'm on the floor. So I'm slithering like a damn snake in my nice white uniform to get these, like slither, and then just my arm raised up to grab these cases, grab them. And now what do I do with them? Because I know somebody's going to notice they're gone. And and the only thing I can think is there's a toilet in the holding cell. I slide those under a good little pile. I'm like, tear those up, flush them. They're like, what do we do? Ah! They're panicked because they're new. They don't know what's going on. The lieutenant's office is directly across from them. So if she just turns her head, she can see I said, go to the bathroom. Go to the bathroom, tear them up, flush them. That lieutenant came out hotter than grease. She was furious. Who got my cases? Who strip searched all of us? Nothing. I mean, they were gone. They were gone. All of us. The newbies got a piece of prison resistance, and we did our job, which was looking out for each other. Because if we weren't looking out for each other, y'all, we were in trouble.
Yeah. I mean, and that's a key thing, right, Marci? And I love Destiny say, where's Belinda? Belinda was a master at it. She was an absolute master. But if we didn't look out for each other, then who was going to look out for us? And I think that's a relevant theme for today, especially, I'm going to say it, after the election. If women don't know how to stick together and look out for each other, we're doomed. Right. And we learned that on the inside, is that it didn't matter what race you were. It didn't matter your economic status. None of that mattered. We were united. Did we fight? Did we have our internal conflicts? But when it came to, which is weird, right? Because the system tried to gaslight us and say, oh, women don't stick together. That is a lie. That is a lie. And we prove that as a lie every day. Right. If we don't look out for each other, then who's going to look out for us? Men? Girl, please hang that up on yourself. That's not going to happen.
And there are some men, my daddy and brother, and your brother. There are some, so don't get me wrong, but I will say that I don't think it's just the system that has gaslit women. I think it's society as a whole that we've been told, y'all don't stick together. Y'all are too catty. Y'all are too emotional. You're too petty. And we can be all of those things. We can be emotional if we want or not. We can also be very clear-headed, but we can be all of those things or none of those things, but we still stick together, and we still can stick together. So I love that part of something that I never thought I would learn in prison.
Yeah. Well, and I see it out here every day. And thank you, Eric. And thank you for what you said. I'm not saying that there are not men that are not great allies to women. There are, but I'm going to tell you something. They're far in between. And I think that we've recently witnessed that. So women have a very unique community together. And it's going to take all of us, and the women that have not fully realized their independence, and they're still in this gaslighting. They're still in this cloud, and we knew women like that on the inside, right? That they thought they were one of the law, right? Because they didn't know how to understand or embrace or reckon with, bitch, you are not part of the law. They do not respect you. They do not. You may think that because they're using you, but they don't respect you. And so I always tried to live in this place where I could keep myself safe, and I could get the I don't know what the word would be, the things that I needed from being useful to the law, while at the same time that wasn't just for me. It was to keep me safe. It was to keep, I had access to proximity to power. I did, but it
Baby,
was never.
you were Andy from Shawshank Redemption.
Yes, it was never for me, Marci. And I think the women that did time with us know that it was for them. It was always for them. And they never, because the thing was, they never suspected it from me. Never, not one time did any of those laws that I worked with suspected that I'm the one running their ass in. I'm the one throwing the shit away. I'm the one telling the girls how to write the grievances and throwing the cases away. They never, not one time, suspected it. And I intentionally cultivated that. And if you're watching now, any of you laws,
yeah, literally. Literally. Yeah, for certain. I'm thinking about another way that when there was rank coming through, and there were officers and we had officers that were just there to do their job, and they were just chilling. And when rank comes through, we're all going to do everything that we're supposed to do and act like we've been on our A game all night, because we don't want that officer to get in trouble. But when there's some officers that are on their craziness, talking crazy to us, writing ridiculous disciplinary cases, just turning the TVs off or for nothing, these kind of officers, man, when rank came through, that was another way we resisted, is we acted like we had been doing crazy stuff all night. Like she's been letting us. Oh, you don't want us to do that. Oh, we've been doing it, whether we had or not.
Right. Right. Diane, I didn't let people recheck their library book because the next dorm the next day needed to have access to that book. So if it stayed on one day and we were rechecking the new release from Mary Monroe or Carl Weber, then the other dorms didn't get access to that book, and that wasn't fair. So there was a method to my madness in making sure that I looked out for all the dorms, that they had equal access to the books. Girl, don't.
Diane, I would have checked you out that book, baby. I'd have rechecked it 2 or 3 times.
No, hey, let me tell you something though. In the library, you know what she'd say? She would be like, "Oh, I don't know how to tell them no." She would call me the hammer, because I would tell people, no, we're not rechecking that. Okay, so that's going on the cart, right? And it was just to make sure that people had fairness to the access to the books. You bring it. Don't girl boo me.
my bunky, not your bunky, my Lane Murray bunky, Gino, is on. And I have a story about Gino, about resistance. It was the day. Okay, the night before I pulled chain to my program, I had been on Lane Murray almost 10 years. Gino was my bunkie for right before. He had got moved right before then. So like 2 weeks before, this lady comes in. Oh no, Gino, you had got moved next door. Anyways, we had an officer that she came in and took his entire bag of commissary from under his bed. And then bragged about it. She walked around the dorm, holding it, opening stuff, eating it in front of people, like just all the extra things. Like if you take it and confiscate it, well, it's whatever. But when you start acting like you're queen bee and whatever, you hit that spot in my heart. So fast forward to a little bit later, and I mean within 14 days, I'm pulling chain. I'm leaving the unit. I'm not going home, but I'm in line in front of line control, and she comes on to shift, and I'm talking. It's a whole group of us. My friend Laura Cummings was there. It's a whole group of us going to Safe P, going to this program. And everybody's like lined up straight. And this lady comes out, and I'm chit-chatting with the girl that's in front of me. And she's like, shut up, be quiet out here. Da, da, da. And here's me, because I'm leaving. But what you're going to have to really arrest me. She said, what are y'all doing out here anyway? I said, we're supposed to be. We were called here. Why do you call here? Ask your boss. Why were you called here? Ask your boss. Come here, give me your ID. I give it to her. Do whatever you want. I'm leaving. I'm in a unique position, and of course, not everybody is as bold as me. So other people in line were like, looking forward and whatever. We had been told to untuck our shirts because when you go on chain, they have you untuck your shirts because they don't want anybody looking at your body. I don't know. It's so ridiculous. So we had she's like, tuck your shirts in. Everybody tucks in your shirt. She's like, what'd I tell you? Tuck your shirt in. I said, I'm not tucking my shirt in. Go ask your boss why. Because the lieutenant had already said, y'all get ready, untuck your shirts. Like she was just going nuts. And then she came and she said, why are you acting this way? And I said, why'd you take that girl's commissary from under her bed and then walk around the dorm eating that girl's stuff, bragging about it? That's why. That's why. And it was just that little moment where I could say that I had a tiny little bit of a voice, and it reminded me of how sometimes people that are maxing their time, their last days, when they're like running down Main Street, just act cartwheels down Main Street, cussing everybody that was so ugly and aggressive to them, just like, yeah.
To just be able to have the freedom. I remember I always said if I had maxed my time, my act of resistance would have been, I wanted to turn out for chow, Marci, and take off a piece of clothing as I was walking and walk into the chow hall completely nude. I always said, if I discharge my sentence here, and I was ready for it. I was kind of looking forward to it, a little disappointed I wasn't able to do it because it was going to be my act of resistance. Like
You've already been naked in front of all of them.
I mean, for sure. And wait, and here's the deal. I was going to walk in and act like nothing was wrong. I was just going to stand in the chow hall and be like, what's wrong? They were going to think I was crazy as hell. But it was just any way that I could defy them. I remember there was a guard at Texas Youth Commission when I was younger. Okay. And I am a very rebellious, defiant person. I don't do well. I just learned how to do it covertly. But I remember this woman, her name was Miss Green, and she was a little bit shorter than me, and she was screaming in my face. She didn't like me for whatever reason. They would slave labor us till 2 and 3 in the morning doing the floors and doing other things. And I was like, no, I'm not. And she's just, and so the act of resistance was, no, I'm not doing it. I don't care. Put me in SAG, but whatever you're going to do. No, the simple withdrawal. No, I wasn't acting out. I was just, no. And it enraged her so much to not have control of me. She was yelling at me. And I remember that I looked over the top of her head. I'll never forget this. I refused to meet her eyes. I refused to acknowledge her. And she goes, you look at me when I'm talking. Like she is spitting at me. And I was like, yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And just steadily staring over her head. And I remember the rage and the anger I felt and the resistance and the I will not bend my motherfucking knee to you. I won't do it. I'm not going to do it. Now, I learned later on, being in the adult system, that can be very dangerous, especially when you're dealing with male officers, right? So I learned how to do those things very covertly. And I know that we're at our 10-minute mark, and I hope that what we're offering our community here tonight is to understand that even though you may be in a place or a society or a system that wants to control you, annihilate you, have power over you, degrade you, there is always, always some form of resistance that you and your community can offer, right? Like, I think the sad part is when you just resign yourself to it. You don't have to resign yourself to it. And even the smallest act of resistance builds resilience within yourself and your community.
What's how we hold on to ourself
Yeah.
and don't get just completely lost is even having those small things that maybe nobody even notices, but we just know for ourselves. And whether that means, in prison, whether that means passing someone a meal or whatever, or something much more bold, that it does empower you.
Yeah. I will defy this. I will, in whatever ways that I can, that feel, that I'm comfortable with. And some people were like, some of y'all, like Destiny and you and Gino, y'all were like, say, like toe to toe, like nose to nose, like, what's up? You know what I mean? Like, I didn't know how to do that. All I knew how to do was my ways, which is, I'm fixing to smuggle out a letter to the media, right? Like, I'm fixing to write a grievance. I'm fixing to do all these other ways. And it takes all of us in our own paths to be able to resist and defy the powers that be that want to oppress and crush and annihilate us. It takes all of our unique ways that we challenge that.
Thank you for that, Toonch. And thank y'all for coming to Rec and hanging out with us. And if you are someone that is feeling a lot of emotions, worry, anxiety, anger, exhaustion, any of those things, then it's okay to feel those things, right? It's okay to feel all of those things. And we just encourage you to take care of yourself, know that your feelings are valid, and know that you're worthy of all of the good things that this life has to offer. And we're here for you. We are community, somebody would just have to really drag us off the rec yard kicking and screaming and to get rid of us. We're here, and we're so glad to be with you, and we absolutely adore you all. And thanks for all of the good things that you do to help our podcast by sharing our lives and leaving great comments and feedback for us, and leaving reviews on Apple Music and Spotify, iHeartRadio, all of those places. We appreciate you so much. Any final thoughts, Toonch?
Well, I want to say,
I always get nervous when I pass it to you and say final thoughts.
Here we go. Well, I'm going to give you my final thoughts. First of all, Gino is my bunky. Was my bunky first. So, no, I just wanted to tell everybody, me and Marci, it was a tough morning, and we decided, what do we do? Do we come on the rec yard tonight, or should we tell everybody we need a mental health day? And we decided, no, this is part of the resistance. This is part of the resilience, and where we find our healing and to feel empowered is with you all, and to not live in fear. I don't know what the future holds, but I know that together, just like on the inside, we will get through and figure out a way and build power with each other. So I'm so grateful we had tonight.
Yeah, immensely grateful. And hey, you did great, Toonch. I'm so proud of you because you didn't go on and there was no rambling. Like it was very complete thought. And I just appreciate that. And I think that we're growing. So thank you so much for that. And again, we just love you all. We will be back here on the Recyard live, same time, same place, Wednesday night, 7 p.m. Central Time. And we will see you all then. Toonchi is absolute. We are not. Let me get this going. She is
Wait,
not.
I feel like I can.
What?
Out with us on the Recyard Women's Prison Podcast with Marci